Welcome to my channel. It's day 1 on my preparation. On the previous night, I planned everything that I had to complete today. I have divided 365 days in parts, and it's my first day in my first part, and it's May 13, 2022. And I'm not able to complete this on one day, so I took in another day, that is May 15. On my very first move, I'm starting with the Geography NCERT, that is class 7th, 9th chapter. It's around 12 and exactly it's 11:50. I'm starting with my first reading. I usually do 3 readings. On my first reading, I do with pencil. On the second reading, I do with the pen. And my third reading, I will highlight every important points and I will write meanings of the words which I need some further elaboration. I usually take 1 to 1.5 hours for each chapter for NCERTs. I did not purchase NCERT books separately. What I did is I took a printout of each chapter and I will leave a blank page or a page at the end so that I can use that page to write the meanings or to draw a flowchart of an important concepts or to write the previous year questions with answers. So after completing every chapters, I will bind that together like a book. I will make either soft binding or a spiral binding. I completed this 9th chapter of class 7 geography. It took exactly 1 hour. After my lunch, I'm moving on to my second subject, that is science and technology. I'm starting my science and technology around 2 p.m. with my first reading on class 6th chapter 2, components of food. So as I discussed earlier, I make a printout first, then after completing all the chapters, I bind that and make a usual book. And this chapter was so easy and I completed this whole chapter on my 3 readings within 1 hour. Next, I'm moving on with the current affairs. I read every headlines of the newspaper. I go deep readings for the news which relates to the syllabus. Like a story, I read the editorials, but to make notes, I need a support. So I depend on any institutional documents. I feel comfortable with Dristi IAS, Vision IAS, Byjus IAS DNA, and Shankar IAS news analysis, which will be published on YouTube. So for today's, I'm doing with Byjus DNA, and it can be accessed freely by everybody. After making a note out of editorials, I go with PIB, Press Information Bureau. You can directly go to the website and read the PIB every day, or you can also depend on your institution, or some of the institutions are giving them freely, but I usually go with the website. And I also recommend you to follow the reports which is released by the governments and follow some important personalities on social medias, and also the most important institutions like WHO, PIB India, Niti Aayog, etc. After a long break, I am moving on with the next session. I start with class 6th history with chapter 2, and I started by 7:55 and I took 1 hour. It's around 8:55. It took exactly 1 hour to complete 3 readings, and then I'm starting with NCERT psychology. NCERT psychology is important for psychology optional students, but I read this for ethics paper. In the beginning of my video, I told I couldn't able to complete all my targets, so I borrowed in another day, that is May 15th. Starting with economics with the concept money and banking. Since economics, politics, history and geography are very important subject and it has a big syllabus, so I do cover that each day on my Preparation. And after completing Indian economics, I move on with Tamil Nadu history. Please excuse me that I didn't complete this on 13th May, but I have made a tick mark there. I only covered this on 15th May. I'm yet to complete Indus civilization today because that is the only concept left with the chapter 1. And after completing that, I work on with exercises that is given at the back of the lesson, that is the end of the lesson. I'm starting with 2:30 and I completed this around 3:30 p.m. exactly 1 hour. What I feel is the concepts are same when we compare this to the ancient book of R.S. Sharma, but here the concepts are given crisp and it mostly relates to the state of Tamil Nadu. They are highlighting the sites which are located in the Tamil Nadu state. So I advise, if you don't get this book, you don't worry please. You can cover these concepts with the R.S. Sharma book, or else you can cover your state board book. Next, I'm moving on with the polity. I'm starting around 4:45 p.m. with the concept of reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir part 3. I took nearly 1 hour to complete this concept. I completed it around 6 p.m. in the evening. After completing this session, I started a new hobby of reading and learning Tirukkural. I started reading Tirukkural around 6:30. I read that for 15 to 20 minutes, and after a break I started my CSAT. With YouTube as a source, I started for the preparation of CSAT data interpretation. I started the session for CSAT around 8 p.m. and I completed by 9 p.m. And after clearing up my desk, I started planning for the day 2. So finally at the end of the day, I came to a conclusion that I'm not able to complete this large portions, that I cannot able to complete all my targets within a day. So I decided to minimize my targets. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned with me.